Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Rosado, and this is the DIVA Checkpoint. This is your go-to stop for bold insights, big vision, and real action from leaders across Circle K International. Each episode, my guests and I unpack what's happening, what's next, and how we're showing up to lead, with plenty of fun and maybe a little drama along the way. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the DIVA Checkpoint podcast. And I'm so excited to have you today because this is definitely one of my personal favorite episodes. And it is with someone who really means so much to my CKI journey. And so it was such a great honor to have this conversation with this person. I'm talking about Cate Hawting. Cate Hawting is the current Club President of NC State CKI. She's been a member since freshman year and previously served as the VP of Membership. She's a proud former Key Clubber and a strong advocate of staying involved with service into your collegiate career. Two of her favorite events are working concessions at NC State home football games and putting on a field day for the Boys and Girls Club of Raleigh each spring. At NC State, Cate is studying chemistry and environmental sciences, and in the future she hopes to pursue a career conducting chemistry research applicable to renewable energy and other environmental issues. Cate really means so much to me because I remember my freshman year in CKI becoming such good friends with her. She really encouraged me to continue pursuing leadership opportunities in the organization. She served as my VP of membership when I was president of the club, and now she fearlessly leads the entire club and really makes me proud to continue calling NC State CKI my home club. So without further ado, let's hop right into the episode. Well, hello, Cate, and welcome to the Diva
Hi.
Checkpoint. I'm so excited to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing, and I'm so excited to have another NC State CKI member on the
Yes.
podcast with me, always representing Go Pack. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's also a great opportunity for us to really dive into a bunch of things CKI related because you and I joined CKI at the same time. We
Yeah.
both got to stay, we're in Key Club, and then looking to continue our service, and we joined CKI. And I think right off the bat, I would love it if you could just walk us a little bit through your journey through Key Club that got you to CKI, that got you looking for the club when you got to state.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I was in Key Club like all through high school. I was very into it. I think I first joined as a freshman because like I wanted to get involved. I wanted to like meet people, but I just honestly was never super athletic. Like I wasn't really interested in sports, but I always liked helping people and like doing going to different community events. So Key Club seemed like a good fit. I ended up really liking it. I like did it all 4 years, was very involved in leadership. And then graduated, came to state, and I was honestly kind of on the fence about Circle K because, I had done a lot of Key Club, and I don't want to say I was burned out, but I was like, I don't know, like I don't know if I should like make the jump right away. But I like started coming to some of the meetings. The people were nice, it was pretty good vibes. Haunted House was very fun. And then I went to Fall Call my freshman year, and I was like, okay, like I think I really want to stick with this. Like it was really fun. It was like very beautiful in the mountains. I really liked meeting people from different universities, just like meeting people I would never interact with otherwise. And I think that really like sealed the deal for me that like I wanted to be in this organization and like really commit to it.
Yeah, totally. And I always love that you tell that story because it is such a testament to like the benefits of going deeper with the organization and also kind of pushing yourself to, try something new. I mean, worst case, if you really felt after joining CKI, like your freshman year, if it wasn't for you or didn't feel like a right fit, you could always explore other options. And I think it's great that
Mhm.
you decided you were going to try it and it worked out great.
Yeah.
And then yeah, having your fall call story. You went to fall call before I even went to fall call because I wasn't available
Yeah.
my freshman year. And I guess for our listeners who may be interested in joining and don't know what fall call is in the Carolinas
Yeah.
district, talk a little bit about what fall call is and how it did have such an impact on you.
Yeah. So Fall Call is an annual event in the fall, of course. Usually like early November, there's a weekend where we all sort of go on a retreat to somewhere very beautiful in North Carolina. In the past, it's been in the mountains. I think more recently, it's at a very pretty lake. Um, So yeah, we all like gather like from all different schools in North and South Carolina, and it's a lot of like fellowship, a lot of like talking about different things, Circle K, strategizing. But I think honestly the biggest thing is it's just fun. We do a lot of like fun, like silly activities that are very like, you get a little back into that like summer camp like kid who, doing all the competitions, running around, talking to people. But yeah, it's very fun. I think it's a great opportunity to just like relax a little bit, socialize, um, and get more of a sense of like what it feels like to really be like very committed to this organization and the community that forms when you do.
Absolutely. And I think it's also just looking at it from the college student perspective, it is at that perfect time in the semester where like
Hmm.
it's not too late in the semester where we're getting into finals, but it's also at the point in the semester where you're like, ooh, I'm starting to drag, like I'm ready for the
Yeah.
semester to wrap up. And so to kind of get away for the weekend, on a relatively, inexpensive trip since,
Right.
registration is a flat rate and then you kind of just got to get yourself there, a convenient location in North Carolina. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's all those benefits. And then we meet people that we're excited to
Hmm.
see at future fall calls, district
Yeah.
convention, all the different things. And I also love the fact that we have been able to explore that together because I remember it was before, I guess it was after your first fall call, so you, I guess, were more comfortable. But it was both of our first lead con since we were stepping into
Yes.
leadership roles on the board.
Yeah.
I was stepping into president, you were vice president, and I remember us going and not knowing really what to expect. You knew, I
Yeah.
guess, at least the people, which was good
Sure.
because I do remember that whole, like, it was a kind of overnight thing, but I remember that
Hmm.
whole experience. You would kind of whisper in my ear and be like, so that's the governor, that's who used to be
Right.
the governor, which that was
Right.
helpful. But I think
Hmm.
we were like, well, how does the district look from a, leadership development perspective and from a like
Hmm.
officer training perspective? And so now that you're stepping into the president role at NC State, and now you've gone through two lead cons,
Hmm.
which coincidentally enough, our second lead con was hosted on NC State's campus. I guess talk a little
Yes.
bit about how not only do you get the fellowship and service aspects from the district, but also kind of that leadership development in your new role.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just like being around like all these other leaders from all these other schools. It's just very inspiring to see like so many people care so much about this organization. I think that always like it inspires me and it also like generates a lot of good ideas um in terms of like, new things to implement in the club, ways to like reinvigorate your club. Um but also, I think, some of the games we play are like silly and fun, but also I think a lot of things we do like push you out of your comfort zone, and force you to, get better at adapting, which I think any leader needs to be able to do. Um, yeah, those are the
Yeah.
two big ones.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, I hope that now that I'm in the governor seat,
Right.
I bring with me what I remember feeling like when I was in your shoes about to start the year as club president. And I do
Mm,
remember being nervous and not really knowing what to do beyond maybe the surface level. Like I kind of knew the base responsibilities, but of course you understand, like you said, the adaptability component. What does that
mm,
end up looking like? And so I
mm.
hope I'm bringing that to the table, with our President's Council meetings and
Yeah.
our other opportunities. But that's really great stuff that you've shared. And obviously these skills are not only important for club officers to have, but you can take these skills with you into your career. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you're studying, and also
Yeah,
I know you're currently in Wisconsin, and I'd
I
love to hear a
am.
bit more about what you're doing all the way over yonder in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so I came in as an environmental science major. I still am in that major, but then this past year I added a chemistry double major. And so with that like combination, I'm looking to hopefully pursue a career in chemistry research that's like applicable to environmental sustainability challenges. So that's why I'm in Wisconsin. I'm at University of Wisconsin. I'm in a dorm, as you can probably tell. And this summer, I've been doing research about 2D tin perovskites, which perovskites are like a class of material that's really exciting for solar energy because it's a potential competitor to silicon for like semiconductor abilities in solar cells. Um, yeah, which like none of that I knew when I got here. So I've like been learning a lot this summer. I'm in something very different from what I've ever done before. But I've really loved it. Like I don't know. I, you and I both grew up pretty close to state. Definitely it was a big adjustment going to state, but it's been sort of fun to be somewhere where like I truly know nobody, like never done this type of research before. I just kind of like trying my best and it's been really fun. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I'm so excited for you to have the opportunity. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how, I think going back to that adaptability, I think that's the million
Right.
dollar word. How CKI has maybe, and even Key Club and CKI together, being part of the Cape family, helps
Mm,
you prepare for putting yourself out there and putting you in those positions. And I mean, to achieve more and to feel
mm,
confident in pursuing things that not only serve you for the short term of, say, what am I going to do this summer, but for the long term
mm.
of this fulfills me on a professional and personal level.
Yeah. I mean, I think from like a like skills perspective, I think being in Key Club got me very comfortable, with all of our interactions with Kiwanis and also just like other Key Clubs at like Decon and things like that. It got me comfortable pretty early with talking to like people my age, but especially people older than me, like communicating effectively and confidently with them. Um, I think especially in academia, who you know is very important. Connections are everything, which is true in a lot of fields. Um, so I think, having that confidence early to be able to reach out to people, to be able to, ask for favors, even when you like maybe feel like you're not quite at that stage, but you just have to like believe in yourself and do it. I think that I've gained a lot of that from being in the K family. Actually, when I was applying to this program, um, I asked one of my professors for a rec letter and he said no. And I was like kind of spiraling. I like was panicking a little bit because I didn't really have another plan, but I like pulled myself together. I was like, who else do I know? Who else can I reach out to? Reached out to someone else, got the rec letter, and was very fortunate to get into this program. So I think that's, a major skill that the K family has helped with.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. And then also I think in terms of like motivations, I've always been very driven to like help others, serve others. That's definitely been developed by being in Key Club and CKI. And I think that's still like the driving force behind what I'm doing now. I care a lot about like the planet, the people that live on the planet. Um, and so I think having those opportunities to be in the community, serving people really reminds me like why I'm here and like what I'm working on in the long term. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I'm fortunate enough, for those who may not know listening, I study education. So for me, education and doing service, especially related to youth, that really goes hand in hand and connects. And
Mhm.
so I'd love for you to talk about ways that you've seen some of our CKI projects connect to your background in, the environmental sciences and just the sciences
Mhm.
in general.
Yeah. Well, I know in Key Club, one of our like major projects was we adopted the park next to our school and we like would clean up all the time. Um, and I, you know, this is, I guess, a little cliche, but like, the amount of trash in this park, I was like, and a lot of it was from our students. Like people would, go out to eat and just like leave their wrappers in the forest. So that was an early connection between the two. And then now at the Circle K level, um, I think, we do a lot of work with the Boys and Girls Club. And, working with kids is just always, it gets me thinking about like our future, like how are we best serving the future generations? Are we setting them up for success? Um, not to get too, sad and down, but like, I think a lot about that and like what are we best stewarding our resources for future generations? Um, and like how can we use science to make sure that, you know, the kids of today are going to have clean air, clean water, you know, all of those important things. So that's, a connection I have now in college.
Yeah, and I bring up the topic because I think one of the best ways we can recruit new members is by pointing out the way that, our service is tangible, like it has an impact, but it also does connect to the parts of our lives that are personally fulfilling. Obviously,
Yeah.
both of us are in college studying in part because we want a career to sustain ourselves and all of that, but at the same time, we're also choosing our path because we do have some level of personal passion for what we're studying.
Mm.
And so I think it's great that you've kind of looked at, because I mean, there are some, I think, more on the nose examples of like maybe environmental service projects we've done. I know we do like semesterly cleanups on Hillsborough Street, or,
Hmm.
we've done the kind of like seed bomb packets
Yeah.
before. But I love that you kind of connected it to the Boys and Girls Club in, the why of sustainability. Obviously,
Yeah.
we talk a lot about sustaining our planet, sustaining our resources, but then you really got to the why of like, well, it's for the future generations. And
Yeah.
so I think that is a good point to maybe some folks listening who have their clubs and are trying to understand, well, how do we make the connection from the service we already do to maybe groups that haven't seemed as interested before? And
Hmm.
sometimes it doesn't require a large pivot. Sometimes you just have to reframe your thinking around that. And so I think that was a really cool example of that. I also, you're heavily involved with your studies, you're doing research, and I
Mm.
know even though this is a summer thing in Wisconsin, I know you'll be busy during the year, this upcoming year, because that's just who you are. I'm the same way,
Yeah.
and you'll be in the president role as well for the club. So I'd love
Yes.
to know how you kind of plan. What are you doing already now to
Mm.
kind of prepare for that, and what are some of your
Mm.
plans that you plan to implement to kind of just keep everything in balance and to,
Yeah.
I guess, be also sustainable with your own mental health and your
Right.
ability to function as both a student and a club leader.
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think it's honestly one that like people who are very involved and very busy need to talk about more. Like, how are you planning to like, 10 weeks in, are you going to be okay? Um, I think and like right now, we just a couple weeks ago had our summer board meeting, and that meeting I was really trying to focus on like laying the groundwork for having plans out into, all the way to the end of the semester so that, when I'm, in the thick of it, in midterms, whatever, I'm not scrambling to plan like when our next meeting is, fall calls in 2 weeks. Like I am feel strongly that that should all be laid out from the beginning. And then I also think I'd love for this year for myself, but also for all of the officers to find ways for us to lean more heavily on our committees. Because I think committees are a great tool to help form bonds between like, within small groups in the club, but also, everyone who tends to step into leadership in Circle K is busy, does have a lot going on. And I think it's good for them to lean on their committees to take a little bit off their plate. And I also think when committees feel useful and feel needed, they feel more connected to the club and they're more likely to keep coming back to like keep working on that project they started 2 weeks ago. So I'd love to, in our next board meeting before the semester really gets going, to talk about what objectives people, have for the year and what areas their committees could really like do meaningful work to help them with. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
And I would love to maybe even just peel it back a little more for
Yeah.
folks that at clubs where maybe committees look a little different. I think, as someone who's seen multiple ways that committee structures can look at clubs now that I'm at this district level, I'd love for you
Mhm.
to talk about NC State structure because I do think it is one of the best, not only in our district, but even at our kind of international level, because that's
Mhm.
one thing I heard a lot at the international level doing governor training is that a lot of people do struggle to find benefits and success with committees. But I
Mhm.
think that's the opposite for us. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit more of just the basics of how our committees work at NC State.
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning of the year, usually the first or second, I guess the second meeting, not the interest meeting, people will fill out a form ranking the different committees like by what they're interested in. So we have like the service committee, social committee, media committee, fundraising. maybe one other membership development, I think. And so people will rank, what they would prefer to be in. And then we, on the back end, like organize all of that. Usually we try and give people what they want, but often, people really care about service. They really want to be on the service committee, but we try and, get some interest in some of the other less popular ones as well. Um, so then, everybody's sorted into their committees, and then every few meetings, it'll be a committee meeting where you meet with your committee and the like officer who leads your committee, and you'll all work together on some objective for the meeting. Sometimes that's set by the officer who leads you. Sometimes the president is like, hey, I would love if the social media committee could work on this because Circle K week is coming up and we need a post. Um, yeah, that's generally how it goes. If there's a particularly big objective, sometimes you can meet outside of meetings. I wouldn't say that's typical. But yeah, I never had committees in Key Club, so this was new to me in Circle K, but I think it works really well. I think it's a good way to sort of, like I said, form like smaller groups, get bonds going a little quicker, and make people feel more involved and like useful in the club.
Yeah, and I think the two pieces of information to pull out from that statement is one, we sort everyone into committees at NC State, I think is the biggest thing. I think for a lot of folks that is intimidating to kind of like we'll just use the word force people into committees because I
Mhm.
think they want it to feel like it's work that you're choosing to do.
Right.
And I think for us, we let people choose how involved they are with their committee.
Sure.
Obviously, if you want to be really involved, go to be a chairperson of the committee, or be heavily involved. Some people, they join the committee and they'll give some remarks, and if it's not their vibe for them, then they may not step up in that way, and they have different ways they can
Right.
step up too. So I think kind of just like giving them the opportunity. So because sometimes I guess people would think that the committee isn't for them, who then go on to realize they love the committee structure, they want to be more involved, they want to be a chairperson. And then the other side of things is to have dedicated time at our club meetings, which I think has been successful, to say like this is dedicated committee time. Don't feel burdened like you have to make additional time if that is not like plausible. But at the same
Right.
time, letting those people who are more passionate in the committees have more time if they so choose. Having
Right.
that autonomy is a really critical part. And I also think, for people who might be on the fence listening about committees and should they put more attention to that in their clubs, I think being a committee chairperson is a great way to get like a soft introduction into like club officer positions.
Absolutely.
Um, because that is, you're still kind of doing the same things. You're communicating with the president more frequently, you're communicating with other board members more frequently, just as a way to communicate what you're working on. So I think that's all amazing stuff, and
Yeah.
that really is great. I would love to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
We've dived into all sorts of CKI stuff. I know me and you could go back and forth for hours on CKI things. We have before,
Mhm.
especially at district
Oh, yes.
convention or at LeeCon. But
Yes.
I think one of my favorite stories from like my interactions with you is like it's kind of like a mini story. It doesn't even seem like
Mhm.
much, but it was our drive down to Myrtle Beach for DCon
It was.
2025, and we were just chatting, and then you kind of like lore dropped that you were like currently up to date on the newest season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
True,
And
yes.
of course, to me, I was like, well, as an avid Drag Race fan, this is what we're about to dive into. And so it's
Yes.
so funny to me. You have a way of just like dropping into some like fun conversations that I love so much. And so I had to bring this up that you kind of just like dropped in on your casting sheet that you had seen Sharknado. And I have to
Yes.
just know like what's the story there. I feel like I haven't even
Sure.
heard anyone talk about Sharknado, and then you threw it on there, so it's like we gotta hear like everything, and
Yeah.
like what are your thoughts?
Wow. Well, I actually watched it here in Wisconsin. The whole group was like hanging out. We were talking about movies we like, I think. And someone was like, "Oh, this semester I watched all five Sharknado movies with my roommates." And everyone was like, "Whoa, it's a lot of Sharknado." And so then that night we like went to the basement of the dorm and we put it on. We watched it. We enjoyed it so much we watched Sharknado 2 right after. Um, it's I honestly was a little nervous because sharks are one of my biggest fears. I really do not mess with them. I know they're like never ever gonna hurt me, but like they're scary. But the animation is so horrendous that it's like fine. They're not even scary. Um, I think it's worth watching. I think it's like an underrated, like fun group watch.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I
yeah.
mean that really is. I think that is kind of the critical point is that is like the group watch. And of course, now I have to ask, you love Sharknado 1 so much you watched Sharknado 2. What happened
Yes.
to watching Sharknado 3, 4, and 5?
Well, it was, I think we're all tired, to be honest. It's not a very exciting answer, but every so often we'll have a movie night and people are like, oh, Sharknado 3, maybe? And everyone's like, oh no. Um, but yeah, Sharknado 2 is crazy because it starts with them on a plane and there's like sharks hitting the plane.
Oh, see, I didn't think
So,
about this.
right, right.
Wow.
Also, there's like the main guy. So in the first movie, the guy is like he's like a divorced guy who owns a bar and he's like so like has so many issues. And then he like saves everyone from the Sharknado and he like gets his ex-wife back. So it worked out for him. And then in the second movie, he's back with his wife, but then like he meets up with his like high school ex and they kiss, but then the Sharknado's hitting Manhattan, so he has to go. Like
Right, very
it's a
critical
lot.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
wow. Well, I mean, hey, this is highly informative to me. I wasn't even aware there were five Sharknadoes.
Right.
So now they're going on the letterbox to be watched. I'll have
Yes.
to, we'll have to check in.
Yes.
Um, and I'll have to give you a rundown on some more Sharknado. Um,
Please, yeah.
I I want to say that this is such an important topic for CKI, and bear with me because, this podcast is an example of ways to try new media with,
Sure.
advertising not only our organization to potential members who might be interested, but
Uh-huh.
also just a new way to connect with our current members to make them feel more connected. And, now that I think about it, a blockbuster movie like Sharknado would be great, but like CKI related. So if I'm
Ooh.
giving you like unlimited budget,
Sure.
please, our listeners are the, corporate Disney executives or something.
Okay.
Can you please like pitch us if you
Oh
had to make a
boy.
Sharknado's type movie, but like
Uh-huh.
CKI related, what does
Oh.
your CKI blockbuster look like?
Oh boy. Okay. Hold on. Whoa. CKI Sharknado. Um, okay. I'm definitely thinking Pre is in there somehow. Um, for listeners who may not be aware, Pre is the four four years past governor, is that right?
Yeah, yes, I don't want to say the dates off the top of my head, but yeah, it's about there was Governor Maddie, there was Cameron, and then there was
Right.
Pre.
Yes.
Yes, and he was a two-time trustee at the time of um this being published. He will have just graduated the past, spring semester. Now we're in the fall. But yeah, he is a time. I'm glad you've cast he, and that would stroke his ego in such a perfect way to say that he would have to be, I think, the starring role in the CKI
Well,
thriller.
you know what? Maybe he would be like a wacky side character and the heroine would be Cameron because she water skis.
Ah,
So
now
I feel like
that's
she could
true.
really like, weave through the sharks.
Yeah, well, and see, so for reference, this is as of this year, it will be kind of our second year in a row hosting fall call at the Coble Water Ski School, which Cameron's family is renowned. I want to say like world champions in
World
water
champions,
skiing.
yes. Very impressive.
So this is a good, and that honestly might be a good place to begin our Sharknado, is
So
at the
true.
lake in
Yes.
Lillington, at a fall call. Oh, if only our fall call theme
If only.
was
We
Sharknado.
have the shark suits.
We've had the shark suits. See, now that's where you're losing the executives because they know we need heavy insurance to bring out the shark suits again.
Oh, so
Um,
true.
yeah, I won't go on the record on the pod to say what happened with the shark suits, but we cannot. I mean, the video is on our social media, but
Right.
they are a liability to some people's safety.
Right.
Well, as of the time of this recording being released, it will have been
Mm,
announced. And I'm pretty sure I ran this idea by you, so I don't think this is a surprise. If it is,
mm.
then we're gonna have your reaction that our fall
Okay.
call theme this year is like Jurassic Park theme.
Yes, yes, I
Yes.
remember this.
It's very under wraps, but I knew I had to run it by some
Yeah.
of my NC State people just to see if there was
Yes.
interest there. And so that will be our theme. Unfortunately, I guess it's second best to Sharknado, of course.
Yes.
Of course, there's always Decon. Who's to say what Decon will be?
So
Um,
true.
but
We
I
can have
guess,
just, yeah.
yeah, but looking ahead to the fall call this year, I guess what are
hmm
you most excited for,
Mm,
especially through the lens of Jurassic Park?
yeah. I so I Sadie, who's like the con chair, I've been in the club with for 2 years at state. I have full confidence in her planning abilities. I'm sure the theme is going to be like perfectly like sprinkled throughout everything. I'm excited to see like what like fun games and activities there are. Of course, like I'm most excited about the people. That's really like what we're there for. Um, but I'm excited to meet like some of the freshmen that are coming in because I feel like now like being in the president role, being in the second half of my like undergraduate education, like a little more of like a senior, no, I'm not a senior, but a little more of a senior role. So I'm excited to like, be a little more comfortable and like meet the new people coming in, welcome them in, because obviously that was such a like formative experience for me as a freshman. So I'm really excited to like see the new faces, welcome everyone, candlelight ceremony, of course.
Of course, love the candlelight ceremony, and that is such like a hidden gem of fall call to
Yeah.
have a moment to acknowledge that we always have new people every year, obviously, and bringing them into the fold. Because then we'll also, like you said, have our kind of like veteran attendees who, also need time because they are approaching some of their last fall calls. There's always people
Yeah.
on both ends of the spectrum.
hmm
So that really is amazing. I'm really excited for it. I've been on the behind the scenes end, so I get to see all the amazing work that's being put in, as well as the workshops that are being, put
Yes.
together. And this year we're also, this hasn't even been announced yet, so
Oh,
this is kind of news, but
okay.
we will be having workshops from clubs, hopefully, as well, because we
Oh,
wanted to
fun.
provide opportunities for our clubs to, maybe practice some mini workshops, then that can turn into workshops for decon or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
icon. So I think those will all be cool opportunities. We're really going to have a fun time at Fall Call. And of course, it'll be so fun to have, of course, my NC State folks there and, just meet up with all the other folks from all of our different clubs. But of course,
hmm
I always have a little bias for my NC State folks.
Of
Um,
course.
I don't want to hold you too long. I've appreciated you giving your time generously to be on the pod. My last question for you, though,
Okay.
is I ask all my guests to share the biggest diva moment that they've seen during their time. It could be in CKI, Key Club, anything K-Fam related. The
Mm,
biggest diva moment that you've seen that really was big and bold and stood out to you.
yeah. Now, in the vein of talking about fall call and like the candlelight ceremony, the first thing that comes to mind is you, Tyler,
Oh,
because because at our most recent fall call, it feels like a lifetime ago, but most recent fall call, we were in the candlelight ceremony. We're all going around like sharing our experience this weekend, like what we took away from it. And, it's your first time here. I didn't know if you were even gonna like talk because you don't have to, like if you're not comfortable. But you spoke up and you just like full English major mode, like so eloquent, like off the dome, like sounded beautiful. Like obviously, like you had not rehearsed it at all because like how could you? But it was like a beautiful speech, perfect, like very heartfelt. And you could just tell, like by like the air around us, like everyone was like, "Whoa." And I've heard whispers that that was like the moment you were like singled out as like our next governor. And if that's not a diva moment, I don't know what is.
Well, thank you for, I guess, holding space for my diva moment. It really was an unintentional diva moment. And yes, there are some people who feel like that was the moment. That it was kind of like he has to run. Like you said, it was not rehearsed. I don't
Right,
have a copy of it anywhere. I don't think anyone
right.
recorded it, but I do remember just on the general details of the contents of that speech were just acknowledging the fact that, like we mentioned, there are new people who come every year. And so I just wanted our clubs. We have, so many officers for our clubs, our district officers there. We had Pre and Cameron there, trustees at the international level. And so I guess I
Mhm.
just wanted everyone to have a minute to think about all of the current high schoolers out there, whether they're key clubbers or just, high schoolers proper,
Mm.
that don't know a thing about CKI or Key Club or Kiwanis or anything, and just to hold space for the fact that they are probably so nervous and scared
Right.
stepping into, the college experience, whether that be at a 2-year university, 4-year university, whether they're, like you and me who stayed a little close to home or they're going across the country. It's a nerve-wracking experience that I think all of us as collegiate people could like relate to. And so I
Yeah.
was trying to just bring up the fact that like if we can keep that in mind when we're doing our recruiting, then we will be able to articulate to folks that this CKI can be the solution to some of those woes,
Yeah.
making friends when people are scared they won't have friends, developing their leadership in a time where you're really pressured to step into who you will be for the duration of your life, pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I did love that moment, and it wasn't like most of my favorite kind of like spiels or like I guess speeches you could say is that it really
Yeah.
wasn't rehearsed at all. It was just kind of like felt right in the moment. It really was like a powerful moment to just see everyone expressing their love for CKI, in the woods at late at night,
Yeah.
just loving the organization that we all love and cherish.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that. And
Yeah.
once again, thank you for being on the Diva Checkpoint. It is such a privilege to have you on to just talk about CKI. You're one of my favorite CKI people because
Oh, thank you.
we have just worked together so closely,
Yes.
and I'm really super super excited for you to have the like such a successful year. I really think this is going to be the best year for NC State CKI yet out of all these 60 something years that it's been around. This is going to be the best year. President Cate Hawting is going down in the history books. Mark my words.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. And thank you for having me. I really
Of
enjoyed our
course.
conversation.
Of course. All right. You take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Diva Checkpoint podcast with me, Tyler Rosado. For more episodes, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you've got something to say, we want you to be a guest on our show. Head over to bit.ly/CKI podcast for more information. Until next time, keep leading loud, CKI.